unthinkable happened. What if Queen Camilla, a pivotal figure in the British royal family, announced her resignation from the throne? Her statement left everyone stunned, shaking the very foundations of the monarchy. As the world tried to come to terms with her decision, questions began to swirl. Why would Camilla, who fought so long to find her place in royal life, step down at such a crucial time? Is there more to this than just a personal choice? Or does it signal something far deeper within the royal family? The answers may be more shocking than you can imagine. The shock heard around the world. When Queen Camilla announced her resignation, the world stopped. The news was unexpected, a twist no one saw coming. After years of adapting to her role as the queen consort, Camilla, who had been a symbol of resilience and grace, walked away from it all. What led her to this decision? Was it health, personal reasons, or something much deeper? The royal family had always anticipated the challenges that came with the throne, but no one was prepared for this kind of twist. For many, Camilla's resignation was a huge blow, one that shook the royal family's foundation. Questions swirled. Could it be the pressures of being in the public eye for so long? Or perhaps the weight of the monarchy's centuries-old expectations finally took its toll? The announcement was startling, and the reason behind it only fueled more speculation. As queen consort, Camilla had made a name for herself as a stabilizing force in the royal family. Yet, this very position had also placed her under intense scrutiny. Was the spotlight too much for her to handle? Or was there a deeper personal reason that led her to this drastic decision? The royal family's future now seemed uncertain without her by Charles's side. This chapter in royal history was unlike any before it. Camilla's resignation marked the end of an era, and the world couldn't stop talking about the consequences. How would the royal family navigate the shifting tides of power? And what did this mean for King Charles's reign? It was a monumental moment for all involved. The pressure of royal duty. Camilla's rise to queen consort was not an easy journey. Once criticized, even rejected by certain factions of the royal family and the public, she had fought for years to prove her worth and commitment. Now, as the consort of King Charles, she was expected to fulfill royal duties with grace, dignity, and public warmth. But the pressure had mounted, and it became clear that even the strongest individuals could only bear so much. The constant spotlight on her every move, every word, and even every gesture placed a tremendous weight on her shoulders. Being a royal wasn't just about attending galas and ceremonies. It was about maintaining an image, representing the monarchy at all costs. For Camilla, this became an exhausting cycle, one that began to take a toll on her personal well-being. The world only saw the polished version of Camilla, the perfectly coiffed queen at royal events and dinners. But behind the scenes, she was facing incredible scrutiny, personal challenges, and the unrelenting pressure to always perform. It's no wonder that, after years of bearing this weight, she made the decision to step away. Her resignation wasn't just a personal choice. It was an act of self-preservation, a plea for a life outside of the suffocating expectations placed on her. Would the public understand? Could they accept the reasons behind such a drastic step? Only time would tell, but one thing was clear. Camilla was no longer willing to sacrifice her peace for the sake of royal duty. The pressures had simply become too much, and the queen chose to step down rather than continue at a cost to her health and happiness. What the world didn't see. While Camilla's resignation may have seemed like a sudden decision to the public, the truth was that it was the culmination of years of personal struggle. For decades, Camilla had faced intense scrutiny and judgment, not just from the media, but from within the royal family. The pressure of being the other woman in a royal marriage, and later, the queen consort, had weighed heavily on her emotional well-being. Throughout the years, Camilla had been thrust into the public eye for all the wrong reasons. Despite her years of service and loyalty, she remained the subject of harsh public opinion. This emotional toll, combined with the overwhelming duties of being a member of the royal family, led to burnout. What many didn't know was how deeply this affected her personal life and mental health. Despite being loved and supported by her husband, King Charles, the loneliness that came with the role of queen consort was undeniable. While Charles was often busy with his royal commitments, Camilla found herself battling isolation, something that many in the public failed to recognize. She was no longer the carefree woman who charmed her way into royal circles. Years ago, the queen consort had become a symbol of duty, but at what cost? For Camilla, this resignation wasn't just about stepping down from royal duties. It was about reclaiming her own life and finding peace within herself. After years of carrying the emotional weight of being scrutinized and judged, she made the brave decision to step away. Her resignation was a reclaiming of her own narrative, something that many might find inspiring, but also heartbreaking. The hidden cost of royal life. Living a life in the royal family seems like a fairy tale to many, but it comes with hidden costs that few ever truly understand. For Camilla, the weight of her royal duties was more than just ceremonial. Every decision she made, every public appearance, was scrutinized, and every move was made with the knowledge that the world was watching. The cost of that attention was immense, and it slowly began to erode the queen consort spirit. For years, Camilla had tried to find balance between her personal life and her public duties. She understood the sacrifice sacrifices that came with her position. Her private moments were limited, her movements were tracked, and her words were constantly dissected. But the toll of maintaining such an image, year after year, finally took its toll. The pressure of playing the role of the queen consort, fulfilling public expectations while maintaining the delicate family dynamics, became an overwhelming burden. As queen consort, Camilla was tasked with the delicate role of supporting King Charles while also maintaining the tradition of the monarchy. But the price of maintaining that image had been too high. For Camilla, the emotional cost, both on herself and her relationship with others, had become impossible to ignore. The expectations, the constant criticism, and the unrelenting spotlight led her to a breaking point. The decision to step away was more than just a personal choice. It was an act of self-care. Camilla realized that in order to preserve her health, her relationships, and her happiness, she had to relinquish the title and the duties that had consumed her life. But how would the royal family handle the absence of such a pivotal figure, and what impact would her decision have on the monarchy's future? Camilla's resignation brought into question the true cost of being a member of the royal family. It wasn't just the high-profile events or public appearances that drained her. It was the constant toll of maintaining a life that was always on display. As she stepped down, many began to wonder, was the price of being a royal too high for anyone to bear? Camilla's strained relationship with her stepchildren. While Camilla had tried to build bridges within the royal family, her relationship with her stepchildren, Prince William and Prince Harry, had always been a complicated one. Despite efforts to maintain civility and find common ground, the dynamic between the queen consort and her stepsons was fraught with tension. This tension played a significant role in Camilla's decision to resign. From the very beginning, Camilla's relationship with her stepchildren was marked by a deep sense of responsibility. As Prince William and Prince Harry navigated their own grief over their mother's death, Camilla found herself stepping into a difficult role. The pressure to act as a supportive mother figure was immense, but the shadow of their mother, Princess Diana, loomed large. No matter how hard she tried, Camilla was often seen as an outsider in their lives. Despite years of public appearances and private efforts to build a connection, the relationship between Camilla and her stepsons remained rocky. Prince William, in particular, struggled with accepting Camilla, a woman who had been involved in the breakdown of his parents' marriage. This ongoing friction, combined with Camilla's desire to live a more peaceful, private life, made it increasingly difficult for her to continue in her royal role. For Camilla, the resignation wasn't just about the external pressures, it was about her role within the royal family itself. The emotional strain of dealing with strained family dynamics while performing her royal duties became too much. Camilla knew that if she continued to stay in the spotlight, the situation with her family would never improve. Her resignation, in many ways, was an attempt to create space for healing and peace, both for herself and her family. It was a heartbreaking decision, but one that Camilla knew was necessary. By stepping away from the public eye, she hoped to not only heal her relationship with her stepchildren, but also give them the room they needed to heal themselves. For Camilla, the monarchy was no longer about power or prestige. It was about family, peace, and the chance to live without the constant pressure of public expectation. A deeply personal decision. Camilla's resignation was a deeply personal decision, one that she had spent years contemplating. The weight of being a public figure, constantly under scrutiny, had begun to take a toll on her mental and emotional health. As the queen consort, Camilla had been expected to maintain a certain image, one of composure, grace, and dignity. But behind that carefully crafted image, she was struggling. The royal family had always demanded perfection, but Camilla's journey had never been about perfection. It had been about survival, about overcoming the challenges of her past, and finding her place in a world that had initially rejected her. But the public's unforgiving gaze, combined with the never-ending demands of royal life, made it impossible for her to find peace. After decades of holding the monarchy together, she felt that it was time to let go. For Camilla, this was not about giving up. It was about taking control of her own narrative. Stepping away from the monarchy allowed her to reclaim her life, to focus on her health, her family, and her own happiness. She had done her part as queen consort, but now it was time for her to rest and reflect. Camilla had spent enough time trying to meet other people's expectations. It was time to live for herself. The decision to resign sent shockwaves through the royal family and the public alike. Many wondered if this marked the end of an era, one where the queen consort was expected to silently support her husband and remain above the fray. But Camilla's resignation challenged the very notion of what it means to be a member of the royal family. She had shown the world that even queens have their limits, and sometimes, stepping down is the most powerful thing you can do. Camilla's departure was not a failure, it was an act of strength, a final testament to her resilience in the face of overwhelming pressure. But what would the monarchy do without her? Would King Charles be able to fill the void, or would the monarchy be forever altered by her absence? Camilla's resignation had set the stage for an uncertain future, one that left everyone wondering, what happens now? Royal dynamics. As Queen Camilla announced her resignation, the royal family faced a significant shift. With her stepping down, a vacuum was created, one that required immediate attention. King Charles, while long accustomed to his role as monarch, now found himself without his trusted partner by his side. The question remained, could the monarchy adapt without the queen consort who had been instrumental in supporting him through difficult times? This shift didn't just affect the couple personally, it rippled through the entire royal structure. Camilla had been a calming presence for King Charles during the often turbulent nature of royal duties. Her guidance in public relations, her diplomacy, and her role in family matters were crucial. Her absence left the monarchy in a precarious situation, especially as her relationship with key royal members had been pivotal in maintaining stability. The role of queen consort, although often overshadowed by the king or queen's primary position, is one of immense responsibility. As a mother and grandmother, Camilla's departure impacted more than just her relationship with her husband. The family dynamics now had to shift, with King Charles needing to adjust to his new reality. But how would he manage this dramatic change? Could the monarchy stand strong in the face of such uncertainty? The royal family's ability to endure without Camilla's presence became a topic of intense public and media debate. While many were sympathetic to the personal toll it had taken on her, others questioned the future of the royal family's image. This new chapter in the monarchy's journey marked the beginning of a significant reimagining of its core structure. Could the monarchy survive without the quiet strength of Camilla by Charles's side? Time would tell. Camilla's resignation brought attention to the importance of support structures within the royal family. It became clear that the monarchy's success was not solely reliant on the public figures at its helm, but on the unseen relationships and support systems that helped keep it together. As the royal family adjusted to this unexpected change, the world watched to see how it would weather the storm. A turning point for King Charles. When Camilla stepped down from her role as queen consort, it created a dramatic shift in the British monarchy, especially for King Charles. No longer having Camilla by his side meant that he would have to carry a heavier burden, both as a monarch and as a leader. King Charles, who had always been surrounded by controversy, now faced an even more complex situation. He needed to guide the royal family through this uncharted territory, balancing tradition and modern expectations. The absence of Camilla raised the question of whether King Charles was truly ready to face the pressures of being king without the support he had once relied on. While he had always taken his duties seriously, the loss of his wife marked a personal and public struggle for the king. His ability to adapt and lead without her became the central focus. Would King Charles rise to the challenge, or would the monarchy falter without the steadying hand of Camilla? This pivotal moment also forced the royal family to confront deeper issues that had been swept under the rug for years. The monarchy had long depended on the image of a united, traditional family, but Camilla's resignation highlighted just how fragile this image had become. King Charles's leadership was now more critical than ever, but the question remained, could he fulfill this enormous responsibility, or would the monarchy be forced to redefine itself once again? As the world looked on, it became clear that King Charles had a new mission, one that would require him to lead not just as a monarch, but as a symbol of adaptation, strength, and resolve in the face of uncertainty. The future of the monarchy was now in his hands, but would he be able to navigate this turning point and steer the royal family toward a new path? The royal tradition. Camilla's resignation may have shocked the royal family and the public, but her lasting impact on royal tradition cannot be underestimated. Over the years, she had quietly reshaped the role of queen consort, challenging conventions while still respecting the monarchy's most sacred traditions. Camilla had always managed to walk a fine line between tradition and progress, and her resignation only highlighted the difficulties of balancing both. Though many viewed Camilla as an outsider when she first entered the royal family, over time, she became an essential part of the royal fabric. Her efforts to be an approachable, relatable figure transformed the monarchy's image. Camilla was seen as a quiet supporter who didn't seek the spotlight, but rather worked behind the scenes to uphold the monarchy's image while helping modernize its practices. Her ability to remain true to herself while serving a traditional institution left a complex legacy. As Camilla resigned, questions arose about the future of the monarchy's structure. Could the royal family continue to function with such fluidity without her guiding influence? Camilla had opened doors for more inclusive royal policies and demonstrated that modern monarchs could still maintain the prestige of the crown while adapting to changing times. Her departure left a void, but her influence would continue to resonate in the royal family's ongoing evolution. What remained after Camilla's resignation was a much-needed conversation about the future of royal duty and the way monarchs could evolve with the times. Her legacy, however, would live on as an example of how, even in the face of immense public pressure, change was not only possible but necessary for the survival of an institution that had stood the test of centuries. a mix of support and criticism. When Camilla announced her resignation, the public's reaction was mixed. Some lauded her decision as a necessary step for her personal well-being, while others expressed disappointment and concern about the future of the monarchy. For many, Camilla had been a figure of stability, but for others, her departure symbolized a deeper fracture within the royal family. The media quickly picked up on the narrative that Camilla's resignation was not just personal, but a reflection of broader struggles within the royal family. Critics questioned whether the monarchy could continue without the support of the queen consort. Could King Charles shoulder the weight of the crown without his partner, or was the monarchy in for more turbulence ahead? On the other hand, there were those who understood the immense pressure that Camilla had been under throughout her time in the royal spotlight. Her position as queen consort was one fraught with judgment, intense scrutiny, and expectations that were impossible to meet. Many fans of the royal family felt that Camilla had given all she could, and her decision to step down was a courageous move that prioritized her own peace and mental health. Yet, the royal family's global audience could not ignore the complexities of their lives. The monarchy, for all its grandeur, was not immune to the same pressures faced by regular people. This reality check led some royal watchers to argue that the monarchy should evolve to be more in touch with the needs and realities of modern life, especially as the world was changing rapidly. Camilla's resignation brought these questions to the forefront, challenging the idea of the monarchy as an unshakable institution. While the public's response was varied, one thing was clear. The monarchy, like any institution, had its own struggles. The world was left to grapple with the idea of a modern monarchy, one that needed to adapt to new realities, and whether Camilla's resignation was just the beginning of a larger transformation within the royal family. A woman of quiet strength. In her years as queen consort, Camilla was often seen as a behind-the-scenes figure, quietly supporting her husband and maintaining her role within the royal family. But now that she had resigned, the question on everyone's mind was, what would her legacy be? What would people remember about the woman who had once been a divisive figure but had later become a beloved member of the royal family? Camilla's legacy was one of resilience and quiet strength. She had faced public scrutiny for much of her life, from her relationship with Prince Charles to her eventual role as queen consort. However, she had managed to carve out a space for herself in the monarchy, becoming a respected figure who was deeply involved in various charitable causes. Her work with children's hospitals, her efforts in fighting domestic violence, and her advocacy for the elderly were just a few of the ways Camilla had made a lasting impact. But more than just her charitable work, Camilla's legacy would be defined by her role in shaping the modern monarchy. As queen consort, she had embraced her position with grace, always supporting her husband while also finding her own voice within the institution. Her decision to step away was not just a resignation, it was an act of reclaiming her life, choosing to prioritize her well-being, and setting an example for others to do the same. In the end, Camilla's legacy was about more than just royal duties. It was about being a woman who had overcome immense public pressure and lived her life with dignity, even when faced with the harshest of judgments. Her resignation marked the end of one chapter, but her impact on the royal family and the world would be felt for years to come. The future of the royal family. Without Camilla. As Queen Camilla stepped down, the monarchy faced a pivotal moment in its history. Without her presence, the royal family would need to adapt to a new dynamic. The departure of such a prominent figure raised important questions about the monarchy's future. Could King Charles continue his reign without the support he had relied on for so long? With Camilla's resignation, many speculated about what would happen next. Would the royal family be able to fill the void left by her departure? Could King Charles continue his duties without his consort by his side? These were questions that lingered in the minds of royal observers around the world. One thing was clear: the monarchy was evolving. In an era where traditional roles were constantly being questioned, Camilla's resignation signaled a desire for a more modern monarchy. King Charles would have to navigate the changing landscape with careful consideration. The question remained whether the monarchy could successfully adapt to the pressures of the modern world, especially without Camilla's stabilizing presence. As the royal family adjusted to this new reality, it became apparent that they were no longer immune to the challenges faced by regular families. The scrutiny, the pressure, and the public eye were all factors that weighed heavily on the royal family, and Camilla's decision to step away was a reflection of this. The monarchy, once seen as unshakable, was now facing a crossroads. For Camilla, stepping down wasn't the end, it was a new beginning. She would have the chance to focus on her own well-being and live a life that was more in line with her personal needs. But for the royal family, the challenge ahead was clear. Could they navigate this change and ensure the monarchy's continued relevance in a rapidly changing world? As Queen Camilla steps away from her royal duties, the monarchy stands at a crossroads. Her resignation, while deeply personal, has sparked a larger conversation about the future of the royal family, King Charles's leadership, and the evolving role of royalty in the modern world. The void left by her departure will undoubtedly be felt, but her legacy as a steadying force within the family and her role in challenging traditions will continue to shape the monarchy for years to come. What do you think about her decision? Will the royal family be able to navigate the future without her? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the royal family's ever-changing story. Stay tuned for the next chapter in their journey. In a shocking twist, Queen Camilla has broken her silence, revealing the heartbreaking truth behind King Charles's little-known mistress, Lady Dale Kanga Tryon. Rumors once whispered throughout palace corridors now stand in the open, shedding light on a relationship long overshadowed by royal duties and public scrutiny. As the truth emerges, Camilla's candid words show the deep emotional toll this lost chapter has taken, providing a rare glimpse into the hidden side of royal life. Forgotten mistress speaks out for years, Lady Dale Kanga Tryon's story remained hidden in the shadows of royal history, overshadowed by bigger headlines and the constant focus on King Charles's official duties. Now the public is stunned by the revelation that Kanga, often referred to as the forgotten mistress, has a heartbreaking tale to tell. The news of new King Charles' mistress breaks silence, and it's heartbreaking, has brought renewed attention to a woman whose presence once quietly shaped the course of the monarchy. While her name might sound unfamiliar to many, those who moved in exclusive social circles decades ago recall her vibrant spirit, intelligence, and closeness to Charles before his current life took center stage. Kanga's decision to speak out has not come lightly. She has waited in the background for years, watching history unfold around her. Rumors about her bond with Charles circulated in hushed tones, but few people knew the real depth of their connection. In stepping forward now, she aims to fill in the missing pieces of King Charles's past, a period that shaped him more than most realize. By sharing her perspective, Kanga hopes to illuminate not only her own experience, but also the complexities Charles faced as a future monarch struggling to balance personal emotions with royal expectations. The public's reaction has been a mix of curiosity and sympathy. Kanga's candid account sheds light on how quietly powerful her influence was on Charles when he was still searching for authentic connections. Many are surprised to learn that her impact can be felt in his later life, choices, and beliefs. Through heartfelt anecdotes, Kanga reveals that she provided emotional support at a time when Charles was under immense pressure, offering him a rare sense of ease and a chance to openly discuss hopes, fears, and aspirations. Questions arise about why her narrative stayed hidden for so long. Some suggest that palace protocols and societal pressures made it simpler for all parties to keep her in the background. Yet, the resurgence of her story underscores the reality that forgotten figures can still leave indelible marks on history. Kanga's voice, once subdued, now resonates clearly, reminding the world that even the most guarded secrets eventually find their way to the light. Kanga's bond with Charles. Their connection began in the 1970s, when both were searching for genuine companionship beyond the stiff routines of royal life. From their initial meeting, they discovered common interests in philosophy, environmental preservation, and a shared love of natural beauty. For Charles, who spent much of his time bound by protocol, Kanga's free spirit was like a breath of fresh air. Their conversations often ventured into meaningful territory, prevented by the usual formality of palace walls. While Charles found it difficult to express his fears and anxieties to those in his official circle, Kanga allowed him the chance to open up. She listened earnestly, contributed thoughtful insights, and encouraged him to explore new perspectives. In a world where every word and gesture was scrutinized, her non-judgmental outlook offered the reassuring support he needed. Over time, their friendship grew into a close, emotional bond that many around them could only guess at. Kanga's nickname itself spoke volumes about their relationship. Simple, warm, and personal. In each other's company, they laughed over private jokes and discussed deeper subjects with an ease that Charles rarely experienced. Rumors circulated that their closeness even rivaled the bonds Charles shared with other significant figures in his life. For Kanga, loving Charles in her own way meant embracing not just his princely charm, but also the complicated side of a man who carried the weight of the monarchy on his shoulders. Observers described their bond as more than friendship, yet it was also defined by caution. The constraints of royal duty meant that Charles could not fully commit to an open partnership with Kanga. Nonetheless, he cherished the honesty and respite he found in her presence. She became the person he trusted to offer a grounded viewpoint when palace rules threatened to smother his true feelings. Tensions with Camilla. The revelation naturally draws focus to how Lady Dale, Kanga, Tryon's presence influenced Charles's other relationships, chief among them his enduring connection with Camilla. While Charles and Camilla eventually became inseparable in the public eye, there was a time when Kanga's closeness to Charles unsettled that dynamic. Though Camilla cultivated a calm exterior, insiders noted subtle signs of tension whenever Kanga appeared. From the outside, Kanga seemed confident and radiant, the kind of person who could light up a room. Charles and Kanga shared inside jokes and private smiles, forming a bond built on a meeting of minds that could appear effortless. But for Camilla, whose relationship with Charles had begun years earlier, Kanga's influence felt like a challenge. It wasn't just that Kanga was another woman, it was that she resonated with Charles on a level that might undermine Camilla's own position in his heart. This undercurrent of rivalry rarely burst into public squabbles. Instead, it played out in fleeting looks, reserved smiles, and guarded body language. Members of the social elite whispered that Camilla viewed Kanga as a direct competitor for Charles's affections. Though Camilla had a deep history with him, the unpredictable nature of royal life and Charles's own search for genuine companionship kept her on alert. She appeared to be carrying an inner worry that Kanga's lively spirit could pull Charles further away. Kanga was not oblivious to Camilla's discomfort. Still, she tried to maintain her own space in Charles's circle, focusing on her conversations and shared passions with him. There were times, however, when this unspoken standoff weighed on her. Friends recall that Kanga once admitted feeling like she was always second place in a larger narrative. Yet her respect and affection for Charles outweighed her concerns. She chose to keep her head held high, showing a sense of dignity under the strain of complex emotions. Kanga's struggles beneath the headlines, one of the most poignant elements of Lady Dale, Kanga. Tryon's story is the prolonged struggle she faced in her later years. Initially known for her infectious laughter, sharp intellect, and adventurous spirit, Kanga's life took a sad turn as health problems, personal losses, and loneliness converged. Her bond with Charles had once offered her a safe haven, but as their connections shifted, she found herself grappling with hardship on multiple fronts. In the 1990s, Kanga was diagnosed with a severe spinal condition that left her in constant pain. To manage it, she relied on strong medication and, unfortunately, soon became dependent on alcohol and prescription drugs. The spirited woman who once turned heads at glamorous social events appeared withdrawn and fragile. Friends grew worried, seeing how the constant pain chipped away at her confidence. Meanwhile, her link to Charles changed, with fewer calls and visits, as his public commitments and personal path diverged. Then, in 1996, Kanga suffered a tragic fall from a window, resulting in serious injuries that left her paralyzed. Officially deemed an accident, the incident raised quiet questions. Could the physical agony and emotional turmoil have contributed to her fall, perhaps making it less random than it seemed? Regardless of the truth, the outcome was devastating. Confined to a wheelchair, Kanga felt removed from the life she had once embraced so fully. Her final year was marked by immense sorrow and isolation. Though Charles reached out occasionally, their conversations lacked the warm familiarity of the past. By the time she passed away in 1997, much of the world's attention was fixed on another devastating royal loss, that of Princess Diana. Kanga's death went largely unnoticed, a footnote overshadowed by a global outpouring of grief for Diana. Today, as the spotlight returns to her, people are beginning to recognize the heavy emotional toll that haunted Kanga's last days. Her struggles, both physical and emotional, offer a stark reminder that even those who brush against royalty can face immense suffering and solitude. In bringing her story back to light, we confront a piece of royal history marked not by pomp and pageantry, but by heartbreak and the quiet resilience of a once-forgotten woman. The tragic fall. Lady Dale, Kanga. Tryon's life took a sudden and devastating turn one fateful day in 1996. For years, Kanga had been known for her lively spirit, warm sense of humor, and her notable friendship with King Charles. Yet, as time passed and Charles's focus shifted elsewhere, her own worries began to pile up. She faced a severe spinal condition that brought constant pain, forcing her to rely on medication and, eventually, alcohol to cope. This once bright figure found herself struggling under the weight of loneliness and physical suffering. Then came the accident. Kanga fell from a window in circumstances that still spark questions. Official reports called it a tragic mishap, but rumors swirled that her declining mental and emotional state may have contributed to the fall. Whatever the exact cause, the outcome was truly heartbreaking. Kanga was left paralyzed, robbed of both her mobility and her once flourishing independence. This sudden shift underscored the fragility of a life once filled with promise and style. Her world shrank to a hospital bed and a wheelchair, highlighting just how vulnerable she had become. Though Charles had valued Kanga's companionship in earlier days, by the time of her accident he was occupied with rising royal responsibilities and personal matters of his own. While he remained sympathetic, his attentions were inevitably divided. Kanga, meanwhile, found herself in a starkly different position, looking back on better times and wondering where her strength could possibly come from now. Friends remember her battling feelings of abandonment, sensing that her previous previous closeness to the future king had slipped into the past. Her tragic fall became a defining chapter in her story, a literal and symbolic tumble from social grace and vibrant existence into a realm of pain and dependency. Once the life of every gathering, she was now forced to confront the limitations of her failing body and a future that seemed bleak. Although moments of hope appeared here and there, her accident solidified a downward spiral she was never able to fully escape. In many ways, the fall stands as the sad turning point in Kanga's story, a moment that abruptly ended the life she once knew and sent her down a path of isolation and heartbreak. A lonely end. By 1997, Lady Dale Kanga Tryan's health had rapidly declined, and she found herself more alone than ever. Her once glamorous social life, enriched by warm invitations and lighthearted banter, was now a distant memory. Confined to a room with limited mobility, Kanga faced each day with a mix of resignation and sorrow. She'd lost the freedom to move around, and equally painful, she'd lost the close ties that once brought her joy. As new King Charles' mistress breaks silence, and it's heartbreaking, became a topic of loud whispers, Kanga's own story barely registered. Her final months were steeped in regret and reflection. After the accident left her paralyzed, she grew reliant on others for every need. Though nurses and a few dedicated friends did what they could, the lively energy that once characterized her interactions was gone. Invitations to social events ceased, and it felt as though the royal circle had moved on without her. Even her bond with King Charles, once a source of emotional strength, was now a distant echo. He contacted her at times, but each conversation reminded them both how much had changed. Friends who visited saw the heartbreak in her eyes. They described an air of quiet acceptance mixed with lingering disappointment. Kanga had once held a unique spot in Charles's life, and she'd been acknowledged, even if subtly, by important figures. Now, she was an afterthought in an ever-shifting royal landscape. While major events in the monarchy captured newspaper headlines, Kanga's struggle went largely unnoticed. In truth, her story didn't fit the grand narrative of duty or fairy tale romance. Her passing in 1997 arrived with little fanfare, overshadowed almost immediately by the world-stopping tragedy of Princess Diana's death. Any tribute to Kanga was brief, if it happened at all, swallowed by the vast tide of national mourning for the people's princess. She slipped away quietly, and her final departure marked the end of a life once filled with color and friendship. That lonely end, hidden in the background of larger royal dramas, remains a poignant reminder of how quickly a person can be lost to time when caught on the edges of a grander story. Rivalries and alliances. The story surrounding new King Charles' mistress breaks silence, and it's heartbreaking, would be incomplete without acknowledging the subtle but very real rivalries and alliances that formed over the years. At the heart of these tensions was Lady Dale Kanga Tryon, whose close bond with Charles sparked curiosity and concern within the royal circle. On one side, she found herself quietly pitted against Camilla, who regarded Kanga's influence with unease. On the other, she formed an unexpected connection with Princess Diana, bonding over shared experiences in Charles's complicated world. Rumors circulated that Camilla, ever watchful over Charles's affections, sensed something deeper in his relationship with Kanga. Their warmth and easy conversation hinted at a closeness that went beyond mere friendship. Though both women maintained polite appearances, the undercurrents of silent competition were unmistakable. Camilla was famously protective of her place in Charles's life, and Kanga presented a challenge, a spirited confidant offering him intellectual stimulation and emotional support. Interestingly, Diana, initially an outsider who struggled under the pressures of a royal marriage, saw Kanga in a different light. Instead of viewing her as another threat, Diana recognized a woman who also navigated Charles's divided attention. In Kanga, the princess found a sympathetic ear, someone who understood the strain of loving a complicated man under the bright glare of public scrutiny. Their conversations grew from casual chat to genuine empathy, forging an alliance that further deepened Camilla's unease. Beyond these personal connections, Kanga's presence influenced the broader dynamics around Charles. In social gatherings, whispers about the Australian friend would swirl, fueling quiet speculation about who really held sway over the future king. The tension was subtle yet powerful, leaving an imprint on how each woman was perceived. In time, this triangular dance contributed to the emotional distance that eventually separated Charles and Kanga. Looking back, these rivalries and alliances reveal how each figure played a part in Charles's evolving identity. Kanga's role, while often minimized in official narratives, was significant enough to spark both conflict and camaraderie. As long-buried stories resurface, it becomes clear that the seeds of tension and friendship were planted long ago, shaping relationships that still draw interest to this day. Charles's dual relationships. King Charles's personal life has long fascinated those who follow the royal story, and his overlapping relationships with Lady Dale, Kanga Tryon, and others serve as a key reason why. News that new King Charles' mistress breaks silence, and it's heartbreaking, once again puts a spotlight on the complexity of his romantic entanglements. For much of his early adulthood, Charles was torn between multiple sources of emotional support, seeking genuine companionship that palace tradition sometimes seemed to deny. Kanga entered his life at a time when he yearned for honest conversations and relief from rigorous public duties. Drawn to her intellect and spirited nature, he found in her a confidant who matched his curiosity about everything from environmental causes to matters of faith. Some believe this bond ran deeper than either openly admitted, carrying an emotional weight that contrasted with the more official connections Charles was expected to maintain. Meanwhile, his well-known ties to Camilla, and of course his marriage to Princess Diana, created an intricate web of commitments. Each woman fulfilled a different need for Charles. Princess Diana served as an icon of youthful grace, but the intense media spotlight on their relationship added its own set of pressures. Camilla represented a steadfast presence, someone with whom Charles shared a long history marked by ups and downs, but always grounded in mutual understanding. Kanga, in turn, brought fresh ideas, genuine warmth, and a brand of emotional refuge he couldn't easily find elsewhere. This dual, and sometimes triple, balancing act meant Charles constantly navigated between personal desire and public obligation. Rumors of how deeply he cared for Kanga tested the stability of his other connections, raising questions about whether his relationships were in conflict or somehow coexisting. In truth, each bond seemed to serve a role in shaping Charles into the figure who would someday ascend the throne. Yet, as events unfolded, one relationship often overshadowed another. Kanga's health decline made it difficult for her to remain central in Charles's life, while Camilla emerged as his unwavering partner through scandal and change. In the end, Charles's story is one of a man juggling tradition with profound personal needs, a narrative in which Kanga's heartbreak stands as a poignant reminder of how complex love can become behind palace walls. Camilla's acknowledgement. Queen. Camilla's decision to finally speak about Lady Dale, Kanga. Tryon has set off a wave of renewed interest in King Charles's past. For years, Camilla remained silent, quietly observing while rumors and discussions swirled around Kanga's influence on Charles. Now, by opening up about this forgotten mistress, Camilla offers clarity on her own perspective, as well as a glimpse into Charles's emotional history. She recognizes that Kanga played a significant role in shaping the man who would eventually become king. Rather than deny that their bond mattered, Camilla embraces the truth that Charles's life was influenced by more people than just herself. This acknowledgement highlights Camilla's growth as a public figure who understands the value of honesty. Once criticized for her role in Charles's personal affairs, Camilla has come a long way in earning the public's trust. By shining a light on Kanga, she is choosing to be direct about one of the royal family's more private chapters. She shares that Charles, like any man, needed supportive friends who could offer different viewpoints, especially during tough times in his marriage to Diana. Kanga's bond with Charles, though quietly maintained, provided emotional warmth that he struggled to find in the strict environment of palace life. Camilla's statement also reveals a sense of compassion and acceptance. She could have brushed aside Kanga's memory, or treated it as a threat to her own union with Charles. Instead, she respects that this connection was part of his journey. Her words carry no harshness or jealousy, but instead show an understanding that relationships can shape and guide someone in unexpected ways. For Camilla, fully embracing Charles includes acknowledging every influence that made him the person he is, a legacy revisited. When people think of royal history, they often focus on well-known figures like Princess Diana or, more recently, Queen Camilla. Yet, Lady Dale, Kanga Tryon's story is another thread in that tapestry, one that has faded over time but never truly disappeared. With the latest revelations, the spotlight has turned back toward Kanga, reminding everyone that her legacy deserves another look. She was not simply an extra or a passing acquaintance. Kanga left a heartfelt mark on Charles during a period when he longed for genuine human warmth. Revisiting Kanga's legacy means re-examining the ways she shaped Charles's outlook. Her spirited views on everything from philosophy to conservation inspired him, giving him a safe space to be himself away from royal expectations. She allowed him to speak freely, encouraging fresh ideas that later influenced his public projects. This influence, while talked about softly, now stands as a testament to how personal interactions can ripple through someone's life, even if official palace accounts rarely mention those moments. The rest of Kanga's story is tinged with sadness, as her health struggles and eventual decline paint a somber picture of a life once so lively. Over the years, her physical challenges increased, and the distance between her world and Charles's seemed to expand. Still, Kanga's friends recall a woman who never entirely lost her sense of devotion or hope. The fact that her death went largely unnoticed, overshadowed by other major royal events, only adds to the poignancy. In this renewed attention, Kanga's experiences speak to broader truths about how quickly people can slip from public memory, especially when overshadowed by more high-profile figures. The question becomes, how many other important influences remain unseen in the grand stories told about royalty? By bringing Kanga's life back into the conversation, we learn about the quieter, more personal side of Charles's development and the real emotional costs that come with walking in royal circles.